In this slideshow, you will investigate who came to the Australian goldfields and where they came from. After Edward Hargreaves discovered gold at Ophir near Bathurst in 1851, news quickly spread throughout parts of New South Wales and Victoria. Thousands of colonists rushed to the goldfields at Ophir, Ballarat and Bendigo. In the early 1850s, towns and cities faced a shortage of labour as many people abandoned their jobs in the hope of striking it rich in the goldfields. Canvas towns, made up of many canvas tents or quickly erected shelters, emerged to accommodate the people who came to seek their fortunes on the goldfields. At first it was mostly men who went to the Australian goldfields, but over time, many were joined by their families at the diggings. By 1852, the news of the discovery of gold in Australia had spread to other parts of the world. At first, people overseas didn't take the reports of gold discoveries in Australia very seriously. The Californian goldfields were seen as the place to go for fortune hunters. It wasn't until tons of gold from Australia arrived by ship in Britain that the world took interest in the Australian goldfields. Between 1851 and 1860, it is estimated that around 500,000 people arrived in Australia from parts of Great Britain to look for gold. This source here relates to a shipping firm called Liverpool Black Ball Line, which operated ships called clippers to transport immigrants from Liverpool in England to Australian ports. Once arriving in Australia, immigrants made their way to the goldfields of their choice. It was also during this period that Great Britain stopped penal transportation to the Eastern Australian colonies, as it was thought that the temptation of gold would make it too difficult to control the convicts. Many immigrants from places other than Great Britain also travelled to the Australian goldfields. Prospectors came from places in continental Europe, Ireland, North America, and from China. A violent civil war had broken out in China in 1850, and many people were also affected by widespread drought and famine. So, after hearing reports of gold discoveries in Australia, thousands of Chinese men migrated to Australia to find wealth to send back to their families in China. By 1858, it is estimated that approximately 40,000 people from China had migrated to Victoria. As well as prospecting, Chinese men also took up work on farms and established businesses in gold towns. Most of the people who went to the goldfields were men, but there were women at the diggings too. These women were mostly the wives of prospectors. It was the woman's job to cook, wash, clean, and care for any children, as seen in this painting by English colonial artist Samuel Thomas Gill. Women also helped their husbands look for gold by digging, panning, or by sifting through the soil that had been dug up. Other women on the goldfields were former or escaped convicts or unmarried immigrants. Because life was dangerous on the goldfields, some women dressed as men to help them blend in with the rest of the population on the goldfields. Some women ran businesses from their tents, selling beverages such as coffee and sometimes even illegal alcohol called sly grog, as shown in this lithograph from 1852. Aboriginal people provided important services to colonists and prospectors alike during the gold rushes in Australia. These sketches by the artist Samuel Thomas Gill shows Aboriginal men working in jobs as a guide and as a station hand in the 1850s. In fact, many Aboriginal men found employment in industries that had been left with labour shortages at the start of the gold rushes. Aboriginal people worked in agricultural jobs such as lambing, sheep washing, ploughing, and dam construction. Some Aboriginal men were employed as members of the Native Police Corps, the first police force on the goldfields. European prospectors sometimes employed Aboriginal guides to help them locate areas containing gold. Sometimes it was the Aboriginal guides who found gold deposits. Aboriginal farming families were able to sell their produce to miners on the goldfield. Aboriginal people also sold bushcraft, such as possum rugs, to diggers.